As I've mentioned in my lecture, I think of Buddha as the original doctor. The Four Noble Truths are actually what a doctor goes through when he sees a patient. Makes a diagnosis, then says, this is the disease, these are the causes, this is the prognosis, and this is the treatment or prescription. So the Four Noble Truths: human life contains suffering. The causes of suffering are as follows: not knowing the true nature of reality, identifying with the ego, craving, aversion, the fear of death. The prognosis is pretty good if we follow the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment. And enlightenment is the shift in consciousness that goes from personal to transpersonal to universal. To go to a domain of consciousness where we spontaneously experience universal truths, not really as some kind of moral rules and regulations to follow, but as things that spontaneously happen to us as a result of that shift of consciousness. The Eightfold Path includes changing perception, changing the way we think, changing the way we feel, learning how to meditate, going into the silence, understanding how the way we live and earn our living should be nurturing to the ecosystem, learning how to speak in a way that's evolutionary, being mindful of what is happening in the present moment. These are a few of the things that we learn about as we examine each of these principles that constitute the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. Right perspective is actually seeing things from almost an infinite points of view. So right perspective takes us beyond perception into seeing. That's what we call enlightened beings, seers. So I'm seeing a chair, and on the surface value, this is just a chair, and I'm sitting on it. But if I could see it as it really is, I would see it's also a tree, it's also an ecosystem, it's also sunshine and rain and rainbows and clouds and water and earth and the ecosystem of the earth, the history of the universe, the infinite void. The whole universe pretending to be a chair right now. It's like taking a picture and freezing the movement of the universe into this perception. Why bother with right perception? Because what it does is, it tells us that there are so many ways of looking at anything. The world is entangled, it's connected, everything is connected to everything else. Everything is synchronistic with everything else. With right perspective, we have understanding, we have insight, we have compassion. We start to see things without having a win-lose orientation. And therefore we are more creative, we are more insightful, we are more inspired. Right perspective is a very important teaching, and the word right might not be the most important way to label it. Right implies a certain way. It's integrated perspective, perspective that is holistic, that is nurturing, that does not have a win-lose orientation, that is relational. And every time now, when you look at something, realize that it's connected to everything else. And when you do that, you will spontaneously have intuition, a deeper understanding of interrelatedness, and that deeper interrelatedness experience will give you the experience of compassion and loving kindness.